Hi, so today we're going to continue to talk about slope. We talked about the slopes of horizontal and vertical lines previously, and now we're going to talk about the meaning and talking about the slope of all kinds of lines, different situations, and learning how to actually calculate it. So remember, let's go to the middle of the notes. Don't worry about the warm-ups, and let's take a look here. So remember, slope describes the steepness of a line. It's like a number that's being assigned to describe how steep a line is. So the bigger the number, the steeper the line will be. The smaller the number, the flatter the line will be. So slope is defined as rise over run. Rise are our y coordinates, run are our x coordinates. It's also defined as the vertical change over the horizontal change. So if we're talking about vertical change, we're talking about change in y coordinates, change in x coordinates. And in math, what does change in mean? Yes, change in means subtraction. So again, we talked about this formula yesterday, but the slope formula is, how do you find the slope if you're given 2 points on the line? Well, here's a point and here's a point. Remember, these are just subscripts. This is like x sub 1 saying, oh, this is the first point, this is the second point. These are not exponents. So how do you find slope? The variable that is used to represent slope, this isn't anything random. I don't know why they do it, but it is m. So how do we find the slope? Keep in mind the definition. Difference in the y's over difference in the x's. I always double underline my y's so I know they go together, and I single underline my x's, because I will have students take y minus x over y minus x. Y's over x's. So let's take a look at example 1. Find the slope of the line that goes through these 2 points. So I double underline my y's, single underline my x's. All right, so I always start from my second point. 8 minus 3 is 5. Be careful with signs. This is 4 minus a negative 2. That's 4 plus 2, which is 6. 5/6. All right, so remember, a positive slope is going to mean the line is increasing. Okay, so now I probably drew that a little steep. 5/6 is a number less than 1. It would probably look like a pretty flat line. Okay, let's take a look at example 2. Double underline my y's, single underline my x's so I know that they go together. So 2 minus a negative 6, not 2 minus 6. That's 2 plus 6. Remember, subtracting and negatives like adding the opposite. 2 plus 6 is 8. Negative 5 minus 7. Always start with your second point. 2 minus a negative 6, so then I go negative 5 minus 7 is negative 12. Now, we should always reduce if we get a fraction. All right, so 8 over 12 both reduce by 4, so I get 2/3. Doesn't matter where I put the negative. So again, this would be a negative slope, so this would be a decreasing line. The rate of change is negative, so that means the values are getting smaller. Okay, let's take a look at example 3. So example 3, single underline the x's, double underline the y's. 8 minus 5 is 3. Negative 2 minus a negative 2 is 0. Remember, we cannot divide by 0. Think about why. You check division with multiplication. 0 times what would give you 3? Nothing. That's why a little trick is I have you write no, but no isn't the answer. It means it's undefined. Now remember from the other day that a line that is undefined would be a vertical line. And if we graph these 2 points, they would make a vertical line. Example 4. So let's take a look here. 3 negative 8 and 5 negative 8. Y's over x's. Y's over x's. So negative 8, not minus 8. Minus a negative 8 is 0. 5 minus 3 is 2. 0 divided by anything is 0. It's okay. It's not undefined. It's 0. So again, the answer I'm looking for is the slope, but just to refresh your memory, a line that has a 0 slope is a horizontal line. Think about why. It has 0 steepness. It is flat like Kansas. Okay, now let's talk about using slope to graph a line. So I'm going to change this just a little bit on example 5. I have 6x minus 2y equals 14. So what I'm going to do is we're going to practice getting y by itself. We need to be doing that. So I need to get y by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. Now, first I also moved these around and made this negative 6x plus 14. Now I need to divide by negative 2. Negative 6 over negative 2 is 3. 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Okay, we haven't officially talked about y equals mx plus b, but we have been doing a lot of patterns and exploration exercises that reminded us this number is our y-intercept. Okay, so 0, negative 7 is my y-intercept. So I can start here, and then my slope is 3. So I could think of slope as like directions to go from one point to the next. So 3 over 1 would mean from here I would go up 3, right 1. Moving up is like a positive, moving right is like a positive. Up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. And it makes sense, my slope, my rate of change is positive. It's an increasing line. Okay, I am changing number 6. Changing number 6. I have made it x plus 2y equals 6. Okay, we are going to do the same thing here. We're going to get y by itself and use the y-intercept and the slope to graph. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract x from both sides. Now, you can leave it as 6 minus x, but remember we talked about it's better to write it as negative x plus 6. Now, I am dividing by 2. So I could write this as negative x over 2, but doesn't that really mean negative 1/2 x? 6 divided by 2 is 3. So my y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, is at 0, 3. So how do I graph a negative 1/2? Well, going down means negative. So down 1 is negative, right 2 is positive. A negative over a positive is a negative. Now, I could have also gone up 2. I could have gone up 1, and then I could have gone left 2. Up is positive, left is negative. Okay, so let's practice. This is not on the paper, but you could cross out the last example. I am asking you to graph a line that goes through the point 5, 2 and has a slope of negative 1/3. So you can cross out that last example. So I'm asking you to graph a line that goes through the point 5, 2 and has a slope of negative 1/3. So I didn't give you the y-intercept, I just gave you a point. So I'm going to go right 5 and up 2. Here's my point. Now, a slope of negative 1/3, I should expect a line that's downhill or decreasing. So I could do this one or two ways. I could go up 1, because that's, remember, slopes rise over run. Up is positive, and then I could go left 3. So up 1, left 3. Okay, because up is positive, left is negative. Okay. I could go down 1, that's negative, and right 3. And there is my line with those conditions. Okay. All right, so I'm going to have you try another one. So we're going to graph a different line going through the same point, but it has a slope of 4. Okay, so first of all, slopes like directions, so I would write this like 4 over 1. So I'm going to go right 5 and up 2. I'm not saying that's a y-intercept, I'm just saying it's a point. It's another way. I could just give you a point in the slope and ask you to graph the line. Okay, so slope is 4, so I should expect a pretty steep line. So 4, I'm going to write 4 over 1. So I could go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1. Okay, now I could keep doing that, up 4, right 1. Or couldn't I also go down 4, because down is negative, 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1, a negative over a negative is a positive. And not a surprise, we got a really steep line that's increasing. Okay, so let's take a look here and do a summary. All right, so you have this paper in your notes, the graphic organizer, so if you need to stop this. All right, remember the slope of a vertical line is undefined. The slope of a horizontal line is 0. All right, so why don't you take your graphic organizer and use definitions and come back and check this. But remember, the definitions, steepness of a line, rise over run, the constant rate of change. It's always adding or subtracting the same number over and over. Calculations, remember, how do you calculate it? Difference in y's over difference in x's. Or if you're given the equation with y by itself, the number with the x describes the rate of change or the slope. And the types, remember, if it's horizontal, it's 0 slope, flat. If it's vertical, it's undefined. If it's going uphill or increasing, it's positive. And if it's going downhill, decreasing, it's negative.